back to another episode of the Domestic Draft Podcast. I'm Evan Bierman here with Dan Sloak. Dan, it's PCA call-up day or
That's
first start day.
first start.
Yesterday
Yep.
was, yeah, he came in pinch run and play a little bit, but today's his first day, so we got some exciting Cubs stuff. We'll get into the bad as well, but first, why don't you start it off with your beer?
Seek Beer Company. I've had them on. I think this is the
A
third
favorite.
time. This is the third time I have them on the show. If they're listening, I have tried to contact y'all and get you on the
Sponsorship.
show. You replied, but then we haven't heard back. But let's get you back on the show. Let's get you on the show. Let's get a sponsorship. Seek Beer Company. It's in that incubator as well. Barley and Sword, which we've had on the show. A new brewery just opened up there as well called Goal. I believe it stands for Get Out and Live. Who seem to have a Chicago ties, so try to get them on. But a really cool a brewery incubator there. I went there with a buddy of mine not too long ago, and we checked out Seek Beer Company. They had something called like a milk shot, which I've never had it before at a brewery. Have you had it before? It's literally
No.
they pour it out and it's like all foam, and they're like, you got to drink it within 3 seconds, otherwise it turns to beer. Seems kind of gimmicky, but I guess they're trying new things over there. A little bit about them again. It's a husband and wife. The guy's got over 20 years experience in brewing. I believe they're from Texas. They got roots in the South and Kentucky, I believe, as well. The beer I'm drinking is called the Daily Round. It's a Kolsch style ale with a 3.88 from Untapped. Traditional Kolsch style ale with Spalter Select hops, light fruity flavors of pear with a light herbal spice, 5% alcohol. Making it the perfect beer for a warm day. Get that out right. But it's a really cool brewery. I was looking up any news that they have, and they're featured in an article about, most exciting breweries to open up in 2023. We asked 8 brewers, what's the best new brewery? And they're listed, and it's national, right? So there's beers listed from, Baltimore on the East Coast all the way out here to San Diego, and Seek Beer was brought up in that category. So keep an eye out for them. See if they'll move on from this incubator, which a lot of breweries tend to do and end up being pretty successful. So Seek Beer Company, give them a try. What about you? What do you got?
Nice. Today I'm doing Haymarket Beer Company. They're based out of Chicago. So I'll give you their about us here. Haymarket is a bar for working people, all kinds of working people, truck drivers, dentists, lawyers, electricians, anybody who wants to come and put down their hat after a long day on the job. And so their name, they actually even celebrate working people in their name. It comes from their location, which was Chicago's Haymarket Square, the site of the world famous Haymarket Affair of 1886. I hadn't heard of this, so I looked it up. It's actually a famous labor protest from back in the 1800s. Among other things at the time, they were fighting for an 8-hour workday. So look that up if you got some time. Pretty cool little story there. Um, Lots of fun collaborations Haymarket does with groups around the city.
It's a cool spot.
For Black History Month, they did a collab with several of the Black-owned breweries, including Funky Town, who brews out of Pilot Project over by me in Logan Square. We've
Right.
talked about them on the show in the past, so
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. This one here is called Chicago Tavern Beer. It's a lager. It's 3.6 on Untapped. It's 5.5%. This is brewed in collaboration with at Chicago Bars. So if you follow them, it's a great follow on Twitter. They post
Mm-hmm.
a lot of different pictures of bars around the city, places to check out. This beer is great. It's light. It's extremely drinkable. It's got some honey, some malt, but I mean, I could drink 10 of these if I wanted to.
Yeah. Same with
But
this
and I
Kolsch.
might,
This Kolsch is really good too.
yeah, and we might need to after this Bears game on Sunday. First,
Man,
first thing right off the bat, I don't really like
man.
the 3 o'clock start time. For me, I don't know that for you it's 1 o'clock, I guess.
120 wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, probably not too much of a difference. But for me, I'm used to the noon game, Soldier Field noon game.
Yeah.
But 3 o'clock, it's neither here nor there. The team was absolutely atrocious, right? They lose 38-20 in Jordan Love's second career start.
God damn it.
9 straight that Green Bay's beaten the Bears. 10-6 at half. I mean, give me your thoughts at that point and then at the end of the game, Dan.
I think it was from the first drive, I believe it was when it was 3rd and short, and we did a sneak, I believe, with Cole Kmet coming in motion and coming under center and trying to get the first down, and he's short. And then it's 4th and short, and they do another quarterback sneak with one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league, and they got stuffed. So like from the onset, it was the here we go again feeling. And the 10-6 at half didn't feel like that close of a game watching it. If you were watching it, the offense looked pretty shitty. Defense, like Jordan Love was converting on third downs and just giving you like the WTF feeling every time. Like there's no pass rush. Yeah, I from the get-go, it sucked. I was not in a good mood. Um, very frustrating to watch. I know we did like the preview the week before, and you seemed pretty optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of always been pumping the brakes a little bit on this team, and I know we went back when they got that first pick. If we go back to the audio, I know I said it. I was like, you know, fire everybody, fire the coach, clear house, like first pick, start over, tear it down. We didn't. You know, we build upon some of the pieces that Poles had here, and also that he inherited. And I'm just not feeling good about this team at all. What about you, man?
No, terrible. Just all around terrible. I mean, 10-6 at half. I was at least thinking maybe they're going to go into the locker room and figure this out and come
Yeah.
back out a different team because they still have a chance to win. You're down 4 points. This is still anyone's game. But yeah, I mean, from the beginning, it was a disaster. And
Aaron Jones just like took over,
yeah, they
completely
scored
started
28
dominating
second
us.
half points in just under 13 minutes coming out of the half. It was just brutal. You know, there's some really bad. I mean, we could talk about Chase Claypool all day with how terrible he was.
He's
If
been
you
like
watch any of the
circulating
clips,
media too. Like that clip's been going viral. Like, what do you
yeah,
think
there's
if you're Chase Claypool and you're like his teammates and everything, and you're seeing him getting blown up on the internet for not giving a shit and having no effort? How do you react if you're Chase Claypool?
if you're Claypool, I mean, you gotta come into practice and you gotta start working. I mean,
He's
you
got to
gotta
have the
start
best
showing
game.
that you
Like
care.
he has to have the best game of his life this week, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, look over at the Chiefs, right? Kadarius Toney had an awful game. Andy Reid tried to cover for him, saying that he still believes in him and it's not that big of a deal. But I don't think anybody is racing to back up Chase Claypool after the offseason. He just seems like he hasn't been around the team. He's been kind of doing his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Missed a lot of practice time.
A lot
I
of
think they
lot of
said he
talks
had a
coming in
hammy,
that
right? But
it takes a while for him to get motivated. He's not a self starter.
mhm,
Um, People
sure
were
doesn't look
already
like it either.
chirping that
Yeah.
he should get cut. You know, we traded a second round pick for this guy.
Pick
Uh,
32.
yeah, it's
Basically a
super
first round pick.
it's
Yeah.
super frustrating too. You look at all those passes. I mean, he's involved in it as a blocker, and he's just letting people go right by, making the play, blowing it up. Yeah, I mean, how can you, if that's your
So
teammate, how can you feel good about that guy lining up next to you?
yeah, so we're going to talk about PFF grades, I think, quite a bit here. So just to give
Mm,
everyone some context, right? So the number that they give, they're saying over the course of 17 games, if you average out to an 80, that's like a really, really good year. So I kind of use 80 as, this person had a good
Pretty
game.
solid player.
I think there was one player on the Bears that had an 80 grade, and that was Andrew
Yeah,
Billings.
Andrew Billings, nose tackle.
Had a nice game, but everybody else was terrible. And Claypool specifically, if you look at his pass blocking 46, run blocking 31, pass protection 61, all across the board. I mean 31 in run blocking. And this dude's what is he, 6'2, 6'3"? I mean, he's
Yeah.
huge.
I mean, three of your offensive linemen are on the bottom five statistically for PFF grades. Not great, right?
Hmm.
Not great. Um,
Yeah, and
Nate
let's look over
Davis
at Nate
too.
Davis.
Yeah, Nate Davis
Missed most
brought
of
him
the
in the
summer.
offseason, didn't practice, comes out, plays like absolute shit. I mean, is this an
Pass protection for Nate Davis, 26 points or
Yeah.
26 PFF grade, and run
Is
blocking 58. 26?
and
That's just letting people run right past you every single play. I mean, that's
who's a
atrocious.
D line for the Packers? They got rid of Smith, right? He's gone, right?
Lucas Van Ness got in there, even that rookie
The rookie from Iowa.
has, they're saying he has no pass rush moves. He's pretty quick off the ball, but he doesn't really have any like tools yet. And he was getting in there. And it's just like, come on, this
And
raw prospect that's, not
and
even
you've been
supposed to
saying,
be doing that
yeah,
well.
and you were saying it throughout the yesterday as well, right? Ryan Poles is an offensive lineman. He's the offensive line GM, and
Yeah.
these grades coming out, and regardless of the grades, watching the game, right? If you were to just focus in on players around the offensive line, they were just getting absolutely whooped. like game after game after game. I think that I saw Green Bay blitzed a third of the time. They were literally pinning their ears back and just blood in the water, completely obliterating the offensive line. Didn't stand a chance. And you know, for all like the optimism we had in the off season that this team was going to turn it around, it always starts and ends in the lines, right? In the trenches, offensive and defensive line. And our offensive
Hmm.
line looked like shit. Our defensive line had like zero rush. Unique Ngakwe had some fine looking plays here and there where, he was just in the right place at the right time, getting some tackles for losses. But
Yeah.
this was a terrible game. Like it was really demoralizing. I think as a Bears fan, with all the optimism going in, with Aaron Rodgers out of the division, thinking like it's kind of up for grabs. And if you were watching, the early games, Minnesota loses to Tampa Bay, you're like, okay, like Bears win this game. It's like them and Detroit, right? Them and Detroit are going to
Hmm.
be going back and forth all year. And the Bears tried it out. And if it wasn't for the Giants on prime time, I would feel like this was probably like the laughing stock in the NFL, the way the Bears played.
Yeah.
Um, they traded a first round pick for DJ Moore and they targeted him. He had 2 catches, 2 targets. Right. And
Hmm.
it's like, who's to blame? Is it Fields? Is it Getsy? Is it the
Yeah,
offensive
that's a
line? Does it
great
go up to polls? Like,
question.
who you putting the blame on?
Well, first of all, they didn't come. Nobody came ready to play. I mean, in my opinion, if you look at like, we'll
Which
go
is
back to the
Flus, right?
PFF
Head
grades.
coach.
Yeah, so that
I've
so
never
that
been a
right
fan.
there is
Never been a
100%
fan.
Flus's fault. And then, like we were talking about the PFF grades, that three of the top five guys were the running backs. So I give the running backs coach, a lot of credit. Roschon looked great. Foreman, I think there was a couple plays that, where you could see he was running hard and
Yep.
read option that Fields missed that I think Foreman would have pounded in for a touchdown had he actually handed that ball off. Khalil Herbert, 65 grade. It's probably it's the lowest of the three running backs, but all three of them in the top five. Tyler Scott, another rookie, was in the top five PFF grades. Darnell Wright. So three rookies were in the top five PFF grades. Where the
Mm,
hell are the rest of the veterans? Who
yeah.
who has Poles brought in to help this team out? Claypool, like we said, was in the bottom. Nate Davis was in the bottom. They just gave Cole
Tremaine
Komet
Edmonds too, his defensive
huge
play, big
contract.
big signing,
Bottom.
bottom.
Yeah,
So I think what
terrible.
it's an indictment on Flus, Eberflus. Like this guy
Eberflus
sucks.
first because this
He
because this
sucks.
team was not ready to
You know what? He
play.
gives me a lot of vibes. He gives me a lot of Jim Boylan vibes. I
Oh
swear,
man,
I was
I
telling you, but
hated Jim Boylan. That's
but also
terrible.
like this guy with the hits principle and bring your track shoes to practice, and he's old school and he's grit, and he's tough, and he's going to turn things around. If this guy starts talking about how well this team is practicing during the week and it's just not translating to the games, it's exactly what Jim Boylan was saying in his press conferences as well. They're frauds. They're not good coaches. I cannot believe that is the guy we settled on to turn
Eberflus
this
was
thing
trying to
around.
trying to spin this, saying that the effort was there.
Of
All the
course,
tape
because he's
is
he's
is
the
that
he's
it's not
boiling.
there.
He's boiling.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
it's
ball
awful. I
didn't go
watched
in the
some of the
hoop was his biggest thing. And what is this? Players just didn't make plays? Is that his excuse?
yeah.
Like,
Well, I think so. I think I want to pump the brakes on a lot of the blame that's being placed on the play calling because I didn't think I watched some of the all 22 and I can't think of the guy's name, but he does a really great job of breaking it down and just looking at the reads.
mm-hmm,
Fields was missing a lot of reads too, a lot of first,
mm-hmm.
second reads, and he was doing the check downs. And I think a lot of people that were watching, myself included, was saying, why are we only throwing the ball 3 yards? It's because Fields didn't want to make those tough throws in some of these instances where it was his first read and the guy was open or he was about to break. Fields just wanted to get rid of it real quick.
Which just
So I think there was a little bit of seeing
self doubt.
ghosts. And well, how can you blame him with how terrible the offensive line was at the same time? So, I put some blame on Fields for sure. You have to. I think anybody that doesn't it's super short-sighted to say that he played great and everyone else was terrible because he didn't play great. He was bad
Right.
too. Was he as bad as the line? No. Was he as bad as, Claypool or some of these other guys? No, but he didn't play good either. So, I do blame him a little bit.
What
Am I
would it?
100% on Fields though? No, I'm going to give him a little bit more benefit of the doubt here. I think
Yeah.
the game plan, they came in like I said, nobody was ready to play. There was some good play calling, but there was a lot of bad too. And the defense looked like shit. Obviously, gave up, almost 40 points. So, I mean, I don't place all the blame on Justin Fields' feet at all. I think they just need to come ready to play to the next game. And I think you got to stare at this roster and really, Chase Claypool, I I give him one more game, and if he does that same shit again, I would cut him. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
just not helping you out at all.
That's
Put
what I was
somebody in
gonna.
there that can
That's what
block.
I'm gonna
St.
ask you,
Brown,
Evan. Evan,
you know.
what do they have to do next week in order to like? Because you had yeah, right, 9 wins. You got faith in Fields. It's like doomsday over here. Like I'm already like, okay, well, we might have like 2 of the top 5 picks next year. Probably get a quarterback. Move on from Fields. Um, can't third year in, seeing ghosts, not trusting himself, throwing the deep balls, like not having the cojones to overcall his offensive coordinator and audible and be the coach on and leader on the field and be able to see defenses, read them and dissect them and be that guy and just rely on physical ability is not sustainable. So what happens next week in order for you to regain faith that this team and this roster is going in the right direction? We're playing
So he
Tampa Bay.
did so to his credit, he did that on the Mooney touchdown, right? But that's what, one play of the whole game where you're
Mhm.
like, okay, he read the defense well, understood where the ball needed to go, made a great pass, made a great play. And he was running for his life on some of those plays. You're like, wow, I can't believe he escaped that. He does that every game, but there was a little bit of good there. What needs to happen next game? I think they need to run the ball more. And I think they need to really Fields has to hit that first read, on most of these plays for me to trust him more. And DJ Moore's got to get the ball. You got to get the ball in his hands. I don't care how you do it, but you got to scheme that guy open and throw him
Force
10
it.
targets.
Force it.
Force it to him because, you know, I mean, him and Mooney are your two guys. And Mooney, like we've talked about plenty of times on the show, is a borderline, three,
Right.
probably a three, really, on most teams. So you can't be forcing the ball to him. DJ Moore's got to get his looks. And this offensive line, I don't know what you do with this. I mean, these guys are just not good.
It's so
So,
deflating. So deflating.
yeah,
We wait all off season for this, and it's like the one team in Chicago, the whole city gets behind. And like that morning, the buzz, you're waiting for that first game. It's rivalry, it's Packers, and you're just like so pumped. And then you just want to like throw your TV out the window. You just want to like be done with it completely after one game of football. And it's same old, right? Like 9 games in a row we've lost to the Packers.
you know what
Nine
the
games in a
biggest
row.
disappointment to me is the Jalen Carter thing too. He was so good. The best
Second
look, like,
favorite for rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year already
yeah, after one game, I think
after
he had
one
eight
game.
pressures. I mean, he was one of the best defensive linemen of the week this week. And I get it. Some people are like, oh, he just fell into the perfect situation. He wouldn't be doing that here. I don't know. He's an elite player. Why are we
Could
not bringing elite
could have
players in?
used a rush. Could have used the
Yeah,
rush.
we could have used a pass rusher for sure.
Did Jordan
Him,
Love get hit?
Ngakwe.
I can't remember a play where he got hit or taken to the ground.
Yeah, and did Jordan Love, I think a lot of Bears fans have said this guy's terrible, blah blah blah. He looked fine. He
Looked
looked
fine.
looked pretty good.
Third down
Um,
conversions were like close to 70%. Like that is the
did what he
dagger
needed
and
to do.
that is the
Yeah,
dagger. A quarterback that can convert on third downs destroys the other team.
I think Fields is a better player than him. I still do. I'll stand by that for sure. If we had LaFleur, maybe this team looks a lot better than it did. Like you said, Eberflus.
But
Eberflus is
like
not the
in your
guy.
heart of hearts, you got confidence? You got confidence in this staff? Getsy,
No,
Eberflus.
no. Getsy, Eberflus, no. I don't.
God
I
damn it.
don't anymore.
Like, and we're back at square one.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna fire them and maybe have Fields on, and they're gonna blame that he's learning a new offense, and that's why he's struggling again. And the offensive line isn't given enough time, and he doesn't have receivers. Like it's the same thing all the time, and I'm sick of it. Can we talk about something that's a little more positive?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go over to the Cubs. I actually got the chance to go to the game on last Saturday, which
We had
was
some
awesome.
sick
They
seats
lost.
too, man.
Yeah, first row. Right,
Yeah,
right.
don't want to brag, but
Don't
first
want to
row.
brag. First row. Right by the where the bullpen used to be.
Used to
So
be,
nice
right?
little
Yeah, I was
spot.
gonna say
Yeah,
bullpen used to be there.
yeah. So got to say what's up to Zach Allen before the game, even though the Cubs lost. It's still fun to go. I mean, it was packed, And
Yeah.
that's the atmosphere is what I'm talking about. You know, what I said last show too, it held true 100%. It's a seventh inning, you know, it's a 1-2 count and everyone's on their feet. You know what I mean? Like it's not even like, you know, 3-2 bottom of the ninth and everyone needs to stand up. No, they understand this is a big moment. We can win this game. I mean, it was 1-1 for most of the game. Steele pitched fantastic. So it was really cool to watch that guy in action. He is just a bona fide ace. I'm so happy that we have him. And hopefully he can keep it rolling throughout the end of
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
But they're
Man.
78 and 67, won 6 out of their last 10, 3 games back in the NL Central. It's still within reach.
Right.
So every game counts here. It's really fun to watch this team down the stretch.
That's it
What do
right
you
there.
think?
Yeah, that's you just said it right. Like every game counts. There's not often in a baseball season, being a fan of the Cubs, where every game down the line counts, and you're like, must see, tune in TV. It's just fun, man. It's just fun when the Cubs are good. It's fun when your team that you're rooting for is there at the end. They're calling up some of the prospects, like PCA got called up, like you alluded to. It seems as though right now some players are getting a breather by being put on the IL. Like Jamer Candelario just went on like the 10-day with a back. He's kind of been slumping, struggling. So why not put him on there, take some time off, recalibrate. Alzolay might have been overused a little bit here and there, so put him on the 15. Try to get right before. I mean, the way the optics of it, right, is Ross is maybe saying get right before playoffs, and we can make a run here. And let's call up some of the young guys and let's maybe get some help from the farm and just kind of drag this thing out until we get to the playoffs. I mean, Jordan Wicks has looked great. He's 3-0. He's got under 2 ERA. Another homegrown talent arm, just like Justin Steele, adding to the rotation, which is insane. That doesn't happen for the Cubs. I was reading a couple articles today on The Athletic about, this rebuild and how it's gone. And, is Jed doing a good job? And objectively looking at the reporting, did they think this team would be where it is today at the beginning of the season? And most of them were saying like, no, but credit to the front office for, reading the room and making some great signings this offseason. Dansby, Cody Bellinger obviously have completely, change the clubhouse and change the trajectory of this team. So it's amazing. It's a lot of fun to watch. You're really looking at the standings. You're watching to see if the Brewers win every single game, right? You're checking
Yeah.
their score just as much as you're checking the Cubs score. The team just has no quit. Even yesterday, right? Taking care of, family things and looking at the score and seeing the give up like 3 in the eighth, and you're like, God damn it, like lost it. Shouldn't have lost that game. They're up 3-1. And then 3 hours later, checking it and seeing that they ended up winning. Yan Gomes had a clutch hit. It looked like. I didn't see the ending, but it's again that attitude this team has. They just don't quit, and that's gonna be awesome come playoff time.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, they're up 2-0 right now on Colorado. Javier Assad's on the bump. Another guy that's been fantastic. I think he's got a 2.83 ERA. He's been great too. So another homegrown arm that I think has been awesome.
It's
So
awesome, right?
he
It's
keeps it
good to
rolling.
like have guys come up and just like plug and play, and they're good. Not
Yeah.
used to it. Not used to it.
Luke Little too. I like him. He just came up recently as well. Hard throwing lefty.
All
All
right,
right, Dan, let's get into
let's
fantasy
do it. I was
football
like,
stuff.
speaking of
It's
plug and
week
play,
one.
waiver wires coming up. Let's do it. Fantasy
Yeah.
football. We talked about Khalil Herbert, the third ranked running back, and that's a shock to a lot of people. He was drafted
Yeah.
pretty high.
Yeah. Let me give you the rundown of the top performers of the week. Quarterback, you got Tua, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Tyreek Hill, Brandon Ayuk, Hunter Henry, Jacoby Myers had 29 fantasy points. The Cowboys defense, 35 fantasy points, and
Holy
Nick Folk
cow.
had 18 for the kickers. That line, that's, you could have gotten all these guys in a draft. I mean, honestly, it's kind of crazy that those were your top performers of the week. There was a lot of duds. I
Yeah,
thought there was a lot of bad performances this week.
you're
I,
telling me.
Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
awful. Um,
Jamar Chase didn't have anything either because of
Jamar
that,
Chase didn't do much. T. Higgins got 0. That
Mm.
was just a brutal game. I went back and watched some of those highlights. That was just awful. Um, Cooper Cup's out. Mark Andrews is out.
Hmm.
A lot of injured players already
Kelsey
too.
didn't
And then,
play. Yep.
man, Aaron Rodgers. I have Garrett Wilson in a bunch of leagues. That just ruined me. So we'll we'll see how. I
Were
mean,
you
he
were you
scored a
watching it
touchdown.
live?
Oh yeah. I was watching it on the Manning cast.
Uh-huh.
I never watched that, and I was watching that, and they like didn't react to it at all. They're like, "Oh, okay, he's coming off the field," and then they brought the card out for him, and Peyton Manning's like, "Oh my God, I thought they were just gonna tape it up." I'm like, "Oh no!"
They
Like
listed it
Peyton
as
knows
an ankle
something's.
too. I
Peyton knows that
immediately,
his.
yeah, I went to the
Yeah,
Twitter doctors immediately, and all the Twitter doctors like slow it down. And you're like, you could see the calf muscle ripple here, and that usually signifies that the Achilles has been torn and it's recoiling up to the calf. I'm like, all right, he's done. He's absolutely done. And sure enough, torn
brutal.
Achilles.
I would be surprised if they don't bring somebody else in. I think they know Zach Wilson's not the guy. He looked terrible. They still pulled off the win, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll see who they bring in. I
They
think they're
need
gonna
a
bring
veteran.
somebody
They
in
need
the. Yeah,
a vet for that.
definitely.
That team needs a vet. No way they're gonna trust the kid. The kid that
Yeah,
looks like he's 12. They're not gonna trust him. After
right.
going from like all off season and like, training camp with Aaron Rodgers to the kid, no. Who do you think it
Yeah.
is?
See Carson Wentz. There's a lot of people that were talking about him, but they might bring Flacco back. He like knows the system, and was able to get the ball to some of those guys. They might bring him back and just have him back up Zach Wilson if they can't get one of these other guys. I don't think Tom Brady's coming back. Philip Rivers, I think, is too old now.
Hmm.
You
I'm
know,
trying to see what are the odds? Who
Matt Ryan is like
the
too
odd
old to.
favorite to put in and replace? Who's gonna replace Nick
I don't
Foles?
know.
Nick Foles is up there.
Nick Foles. Maybe they
Former
trade for Gardner
Bear,
Minshew.
Tom Brady plus 2000, Cooper Rush. A lot of names out there. Yeah, Fitzpatrick was brought up with our friend group. I
What
wonder
about
who
Mitch? What about our old friend Mitch Trubisky?
Trubisky.
Bring him in.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like it might be. I don't know who's somewhere. Who's a vet sitting on the bench somewhere that could slide in
Sam
and just
Darnold?
kind of
Is Sam
Sam
Darnold
Darnold.
back?
No, I'm
I don't
thinking of
know. I don't know
someone
if there's many
older. I don't
options
know.
here.
Yeah, who
Yeah,
will it be? It's gonna be curious.
yeah,
I wonder if they're gonna bring someone out of retirement.
yeah. That'd be interesting. All right, let's get into some of these interesting fantasy players that are probably on your waiver wire.
Hmm.
The number one guy this week, I think, is going to be Puka Nakua, who nobody owns. He's
Who?
5%
Who?
rostered. Puka Nakua, he's the Rams plug and play Cooper Cup
Mm,
uh, player. He just took the Cooper Cup role, had 15 targets, I believe. It's the most targets ever for a rookie in their debut. I think he was a fifth round rookie, not somebody anybody expected to contribute at all the whole year, let alone week one. But if he's playing in that Cooper Cup role, this guy is going to be great until Cooper Cup's back. So, if you got that number one waiver or you want to spend some money, I know we do the fab now. You want
yeah.
to spend some money, that's probably the wide receiver that you're going to want to go get. Kenneth Gainwell got majority of the snaps and rushes for Philly. DeAndre
Terrible.
Swift barely played,
Had him on my
but
team. Barely
yeah,
played.
barely played. Rashad Penny, everybody thought it was going to be Swift and Penny. Neither of those guys. Gainwell got most of the work. Jalen Warren's another running back to look out for. He played, I think it was about 45% of the snaps for the Steelers. So almost a 50-50 time split with Najee. Not, I don't think anybody really expected him to get that much of the work. If he's out there, I would grab him. He's probably owned though. He's 47% owned. Kyron Williams split a lot of work with Cam Akers too. Rams running back. I know it was the guy that you had last year. You were high on
Yep.
him,
Yep.
or perhaps just low on Cam Akers. I don't know, but he's 8% rostered. So he's out there in a lot of leagues. If you need a tight end, I think the tight ends were brutal this week. There was only a few that scored over 10 fantasy points. Zach Ertz, a lot of people think is washed, and he probably is, but
Probably
he's
is.
got a good amount of targets this week. I think he got about 10. There's a couple rookies though. Sam Laporta looked great for Detroit. He got a lot of run. Luke Musgrave got a lot of run for the Packers. He's only 14% rostered. I'd grab Luke Musgrave. Both those guys are playing a lot. Dalton Kincaid, I think, looked pretty good, but who knows how much ball he's going to get over in Buffalo. But he's another one to look out for too. I think all three of those tight ends are interesting. Josh Kelly, Austin Eckler is supposedly dealing with a ankle injury. So I would look out for Josh Kelly on the waiver wire, especially if you get a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more information about Austin Eckler's
Right.
ankle injury. That's a great pickup. He's only 9% rostered. And then I mentioned Jacoby Myers was part of that week winning roster with 29 points. I mean, he looked fantastic. Adams was seemingly double covered, and Jacoby was getting everything. He had 2 touchdowns. I think he went out for a little bit, got smoked, but he's 65% rostered, so he might be out there too. I'd look out for him. And then the last guy I want to mention here is Devin Ochane. He's the Miami backup, third stringer. He was a healthy scratch this last game. Mostert got like all the work, but Mostert is like 31 years old. So Achane might be the guy that you want to grab there. Maybe a little bit of a wait and see on him, but if he's up, then you might want to
Scoop them.
get him on your bench. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's good to have fantasy football back. Putting the red zone on. I saw so many like screenshots and people on social media posting the countdown. What is it like 8 hours of uninterrupted football, whatever he says at the beginning of
Yep.
it. It's like everyone just goes crazy and you start watching your fantasy team and it felt good. Obviously, I got the not obviously, but I got the win this week. So it always feels good when you're watching fantasy and you're watching your players and they're doing well. I think for me on my team, some of the big hits that I'm happy. Aaron Jones, like you said, one of the top performers. He did look like he might have tweaked a hammy, so I'm closely monitoring that. I don't know if he's going to play week 2. Um, you know, my tight end was Mark Andrews, and he went out and put in Kyle Pitts, and he really didn't do anything again, but he had two catches for around like 50 yards. So not bad there. And there's players to be had. I had J.K. Dobbins, so I think a lot of people as well. You didn't mention, I don't think, but are going to be looking at Baltimore's backfield. Gus Edwards is still there. I think the other guys like Justice Hill is there. So trying to figure out who's going to be in the backfield in Baltimore might be another pickup you might want to check.
Yeah. And they also have Melvin Gordon on their practice squad that they were talking about pulling
Elevating
him
him
up.
now, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if I was gonna put some money on it, I would probably guess Justice Hill gets a little bit more run.
He had the two
He's a
touchdowns in
little
the red
younger.
zone, but Gus Edwards had more carries, so it's like, yeah, what do you think? I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, tough to say. All right, Dan, are you gonna give us your week 2 picks?
Let's do it.
All
Give
right,
me the
start with
rundown.
Thursday night, Vikings against the Eagles.
I think
It's at Philly.
Eagles are gonna continue to do well.
Yeah, Green Bay at Atlanta.
I think Atlanta is gonna win that one.
Okay, at
I like
home.
Atlanta. Atlanta's a fun team to root for. They got some fun talent. I mean, obviously, I got Bijan Robinson on my team as well. Drake London on the outside. Kyle Pitts. The quarterback Ritter, I believe, right? He's here and there, but they're fun. I think they're turning things around.
Yeah, Vegas against Buffalo.
Buffalo, they got embarrassed.
Baltimore at Cincinnati. Did Burrow
Cincinnati
right the ship?
got embarrassed again. Yeah.
Seattle at Detroit.
Seattle,
Okay, Indy at Houston.
Indy, Houston didn't look bad though.
Kansas City at Jacksonville.
Jacksonville,
Wow. Okay. You're saying Kansas City starting off 0-2. All right.
I do, but they'll
Bears
they'll
at
end up being in the playoffs. They'll have a slow
yeah.
start.
Bears at Tampa.
Tampa.
We've got the Chargers at Titans.
Let's go Chargers,
Giants at Cardinals.
Giants,
49ers at the Rams.
Niners. They look like the team to beat.
Yeah, they look great. Brock Purdy, another guy to look for if you need a quarterback, if you had
Yeah,
Rodgers or something.
yeah.
New York Jets at Dallas.
Cowboys. That defense is
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, I think that game's going to be a disaster. Redskins at Broncos.
Commanders, please.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
Let's go Broncos. I think Sean Payton's one of the best coaches. Wanted the Bears to go for him and fire their whole staff and watch him turn things around with let's ride. I can't think of his name right now.
Russell Wilson.
Russell
Yeah.
Wilson in Denver.
Yeah. Miami at New England.
Miami. That coach is a whiz, man. Some of the plays and things are running there is fun to watch.
And then we got a double header here on Monday night. Saints at Panthers.
Saints,
And then we got the Browns at Steelers.
Browns.
All right. There's your
There it
week
is.
2
There it is.
picks. Love to see it. Quick fast fact before we get out of here. The Packers. See, this one hurts actually. The Packers are 49-15 against Chicago since Favre arrived 31 years ago. 15 games the Bears have won since Brett Favre arrived. Packers now lead the all-time series 106 to 95, and then there's 6 ties. It's the largest lead in the history of the 104-year-old rivalry. And
Not
Matt
great.
LaFleur, their coach, 9-0 against the Bears. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. I think LaFleur is actually a pretty good coach. I think there were
Yeah.
some people that had some doubts when Rodgers was in town, but he seems pretty great.
Bears suck.
That's been our show today. Thanks again for joining us for Dance Look. I'm Evan Bierman. You've been listening to the Domestic Draft Podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to rate the show. You can find us on Twitter at Domestic Draft, on Instagram at Domestic Draft Podcast. Our website is domesticdraft.com, and you can watch the show on YouTube. Just search up Domestic Draft and drop us a sub. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.